Hey everybody, welcome to Coffee Time Q&A. I'm Pastor Steve Roby, and I'm joined by Adam the Mad Hatter.
What's up, guys?
Brass Hatter. And we're one man down today. Noah's sick, missing, MIA.
Eating soup.
He is. So we're going to drink coffee and cheers to him.
That's right.
Our fallen brother right now. This coffee is a single origin roast from Kenya, Ethiopia, right, Rod?
Ethiopian.
It's a Rodney special.
Yes, this is Ethiopian.
All right.
All right, cheers, mate.
Cheers. It's great coffee. I love it.
I love that your
Gets me going.
coffee taste is improving.
It is.
You got a grinder now.
I have a grinder. Rodney got a new grinder for Christmas, so he gifted me
The hand-me-down.
It's a perfectly good grinder. But I'm excited. I'm grinding my own coffee.
That's
now,
a huge step.
This is good stuff.
Small step for Adam.
That's right.
I was going to butcher that.
He's
whatever
teaching.
I was about to say. All right. This week we have a question from a listener. One of the sons of a member of our church, teenager, great question that he's wrestled with as he thinks about his faith. It says, I have a question for my 17-year-old about God as he's wrestling with his own belief. Why did God place the tree of knowledge of good and evil in the garden if they were to not eat from it? Was he setting us up for the fall? Great question.
That is a great question. I love that he's thinking about that and thinking, well, if he knew, right, that Adam and Eve were eventually going to sin, they were going to disobey, why would he put it there in the first place? So it's a good question because you think about
but there must be purpose and reason based on that, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. There's got to be purpose and reason. And in thinking about this, I think there's certainly some when you look at the fruit and you just say, okay, God said, here's a tree, don't eat from this fruit. He gives them the consequences too. He says, if you do,
it doesn't say apple.
No, it doesn't say apple. We don't know if it's apple. It could have been a grapefruit. Could have been an orange. We don't know. Yeah. So, but nothing inherently wrong about that piece of fruit, right? But it was wrong because God had given it commandment. So now I don't know necessarily if the Bible states a purpose or that tells us why the tree was put there, but I think we have a lot of biblical concepts that we know about God and his character, and knowing that there had to have been a good reason for God to do that. He had purpose.
Yeah. So we kicked around a few ideas just, as we met right before we started recording. And, I think on the surface, like just a simple rendering or thinking about it is, God is the creator. He's the creator of all. So there is a creator to creature dynamic at play here. And so on one hand, you can just look at it as simple, God being creator, ruler over all of his creation, establishes that through laying down law. And in this case, one simple law, right? And it's interesting to me that people, it is a valid and great question, but it's always interesting that we always look at that tree and we think, man, why did God do that? Or, that seems like a bad thing, but we fail to think about the amazing garden that is described and all that God provided, all the wonderful things that he provided. Yeah. And he says, you can have all of this.
Yeah. And the tree of life.
Just not this one thing.
Yeah.
So it's like we focus on the one thing we can't have, which tends to be a human sort of tendency, which I think speaks to some of this. But first, I think on a simple level, right? God created human beings with volition, right? So we're making choices here. Right. And this choice in this case was simple. It's obedience or it's disobedience. There is creator. Am I going to submit to creator as God, as a ruler over my life, his authority in my life, or am I going to disobey? Yeah. One way of looking at it, but I think there's something deeper, more, and we kind of kicked around some stuff. So you had an interesting thought.
I thought that the purpose, the first thing I thought of, and I feel like this is somewhat, there's a lot of things that we can speculate. And I think a lot of the speculations can be, there can be things though that could be unhealthy ways to think about it as well. But in thinking about it, I was thinking that it had to do with worship, and the root of this was worship of God as what you said, as the infinite creator, as ruler, establishing his authority, and I think that is something, if they had no commands whatsoever, they would not have known the goodness of obedience to God. They would not have known the evil of disobedience either. So the fact that there was something there that God had given them, I think is one way that we worship is by obeying. One way we submit to him is through our obedience to him. And without that command, there would not have been an opportunity for that.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that, because we're wired for worship. We're wired to find our satisfaction in him.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's ultimately, human beings long to, whether or not we worship God, we attach a certain love to something.
Yeah.
And in this case, it's almost like a choice. Are you going to attach it to me, or are you going to seek this satisfaction, this pleasure, this joy in something else, which is really what I think was the purpose of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. It speaks something deep about human beings. God made us with real desires, and if you look at the account specifically, like the serpent targets human desire. Like that's his angle. First, he begins to cast doubt on God and on his word, his goodness and his truthfulness.
Right.
And then he, when Eve takes it, it's described in this way in Genesis 3. It says, so when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, right? What does that speak to?
Appeal.
It speaks to our desire. Temptation. Like we're made to eat food. Our bodies are designed for that.
Yeah.
So it looked like this food looked desirable.
Yeah.
So it says that the food was good that the tree was good for food. And then it says, and that it was a delight to the eyes. So we have desires for hunger. We have desires for pleasure. And this was delighting her eyes. It was certainly something that she was going to seek pleasure in. And then it says, and that the tree was desired to make one wise. Right, so we have these desires for wisdom and the accumulation of knowledge and to be in the know. And, when you think those three desires of hunger, of pleasure, of wisdom, like that was the angle of temptation. And she took, and she ate, and Adam ate, and, that's ultimately, I think, points us to the deep reality that our satisfaction of all of our desires should be rooted in and fulfilled by God.
Right.
And yet he was giving them opportunity by placing that tree there to choose, are they going to find their satisfaction in me, or are they going to seek satisfaction apart from me? And since they took and ate, we believe human beings now have a tendency to sin, have been born with a sin nature. And ever since then, human beings have been seeking satisfaction apart from God.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, it's a deep reality when you think like what you think the payback's going to be, that when we seek satisfaction apart from God, whatever that is in the world today, right? If that's in money, fame, popularity, whatever we're seeking satisfaction in, and we think will, help define our worth or make us feel better, or, answer our deep longings, it tends to have not always a good return on the investment.
Sure. Yeah.
And they had a diminishing return.
Absolutely.
And so satisfaction in God brings life. Satisfaction that we seek apart from him is diminishing.
Yeah. And because that's the foundation of our joy is in God. And I think that is the root. I think that makes a lot of sense when you're thinking about why God would actually do that. And Adam and Eve doubted that. They ultimately doubted God's goodness. in taking. And so for us, when I think about this, if I'm thinking that God is somehow unrealistic in his expectations, or then it's because I'm not understanding the character of God and how good he is and his goodness. And just as Adam and Eve, they I don't know how long they would have spent, in the garden. I feel like it was probably a long time. They were probably in the garden, for years, billions of years, maybe. Earth is that old.
Humans are not.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah, that's right. Adam was 930 years old when he died, right? Something like that.
Yeah, but that's not, I don't know where you're
after
going
the
with
garden.
this. I don't know where you're going with this.
Nowhere. All I'm saying is it's just interesting to think that, I think it's I'm going here just that it's easy for us to take questions and just say, oh, it's hard we don't know. The Bible doesn't tell us why, but we do know enough about God to know that his purposes were good. His reasons were good.
Amen. I think it's a good note to end on, because, that's something we don't want to doubt. Mm-hmm. And that doubting is what led them to seek satisfaction apart from God.
Yeah.
And many people have wrecked their lives seeking satisfaction in this world apart from him.
Yeah.
And so we believe that human beings, it's Piper that calls it Christian hedonism, that the greatest joy and satisfaction that you can find in life is seeking joy and satisfaction in God. And the more we're satisfied in him, the more we glorify him, and the more satisfying on a soul level that life is in this world. Real joy, real peace, real contentment, real longings fulfilled. And so there is beauty and joy in seeking satisfaction in him.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Amen.
Thanks, man. Amen. Hey, if you guys haven't subscribed to the channel, we would encourage you to do that. We would love for you to follow along with us as we put out more content. You can like, comment. We'd love to answer any questions. We do have a format to submit questions. You can do it in the comments, but we also have a card on wec.life, Coffee Time Q&A. That's a website of our church, Water's Edge. And if you submit a question on there, it'll go into a pool, and hopefully we'll get to it in the near future. God bless you all. Thanks for tuning in.